All right, everybody. Just give me a couple minutes. We're just waiting for a few more people to log in. Can you guys see my screen? Just type in the chat box if you can see my screen. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Jace. Appreciate you. Chelsea, thank you. We just have a couple more people logging in. So just give me a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Cool? All right, everybody, let's get started. Well, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being part of this Pain Relief Beyond Belief seminar. Woo! Yay! First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. Some of you know me already. I am Evan Chait. I am the CEO and co-founder of Kinetic Rehab Spine. My background is physical therapy. I'm a physical therapist. I have my doctor of acupuncture, and I'm also a nutritionist and herbalist. And we are very excited to introduce a couple of new people to the team. First of all, I want to introduce Nicole. Nicole is our patient advocate. Nicole, can you do me a favor and just explain who you are, how you're here to serve everybody, and just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, please.
Yes, so I'm Nicole. I'm the patient advocate here at Kinetic Rehab Spine. So my job is just that. I'm your advocate. So my background is in nutrition. So it's also one of the services that we offer here at Kinetic. So if you ever need any kind of recommendations for nutrition as well, we could pretty much create a whole program. My background, again, nutrition, but I worked in a nursing home. So I kind of saw the later stages of life of, people whose nutrition kind of reflected their quality of life. So that's why I'm here. And my goal kind of aligns with Kinetic. I want to help people possibly as soon as I can. So.
Thank you, Nicole. And if you're a patient with us already, an active patient, if you're a new patient, you probably met Nicole. So anybody that's new to our company, welcome. Anybody that's a new patient or has been a patient of ours for a period of time, welcome. This webinar, this seminar is here to serve you. And if you have any questions, save them for the end. And also, if you have any questions, like you want to schedule an appointment, feel free to type in the chat box, or you can just contact the office at 201-327-1990 and speak to Nicole. She'll be able to coordinate and schedule everything for you. The next person I want you guys to meet is our nursing supervisor. And her name is Lisa Pelt. Lisa, I would love you to introduce yourself. Lisa is a relatively new member to the team. And we've been so excited. It took us years to find somebody like Lisa to implement medical out of our practices. And she's such a great advocate to you guys. And she's going to be the cornerstone of all services moving forward. And she has a vast knowledge that she's going to go into now. Lisa, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Pelt. I am a nurse practitioner and I am the nurse supervisor here at Kinetic. And I've been in practice as an NP for over a decade.
I think we lost Lisa. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we lost Lisa. I'm sure she'll jump right back on. So Lisa is basically going to be the cornerstone to everything we do with our patients moving forward. Having the ability to have a medical provider that's also primary care serves you guys, because she could write scripts for physical therapy, for occupational therapy, for acupuncture. She could also manage your medicine. So not only is she a strong advocate for you guys, but she's here as well as the primary care provider. So if you can't get in with your primary care provider, or if you want to have a new one, Lisa could actually really step in and really serve you. And she's been such a strong asset for us already. Lisa, are you back on? All right, when she comes back on a little bit, we'll have her continue the introduction. Well, this presentation is kind of unique because I'm not a big fan of webinars. I'm much more a fan of doing live workshops where I have 10, 20, 30 people in front of me, and I'm much more interactive as a presenter. So I have the best of both worlds. I have a little bit of a dry erase board behind me, and I have a webinar. I have a presentation we're doing for everybody. I do not like using slides, but for you guys, I will today. Okay, so all right, let's begin. Now, this is an exhaustive list of the burden of illness and disease. So just bear with me. I want to paint a picture here, guys. Western medicine is extremely effective at saving lives. So they're the best in the world at acute disease. If you have a heart attack, go see a Western medical doctor, right? If you have a stroke, don't see me. See me after you get resolved. If you have a heart attack, see me after you get resolved, all right? Any kind of acute issues in Western medicine, there's nothing better. You have a very aggressive infection, don't come and see me. See a Western medical doctor, all right? Or see Lisa. Chinese medicine and Western medicine, I'm sorry, Chinese medicine and physical therapy and occupational therapy, we considered more conservative care. Meaning this, what is conservative care? We do best in the world of treating diseases, not only before they manifest, or problems not only before they manifest, but also for chronic issues. So something that's considered chronic, you've had it for 2 to 4 weeks. That's what science says. So if you have pain or you have a pathology that's longer than 2 to 4 weeks, it's actually considered chronic. All right. So let's just go through this list. 80 to 90% of Americans have chronic lower back issues. 80% of the US population has developed a chronic disease, even in children. More than 2/3 of the adult population in the US is overweight or obese. Less than 25% of adults get adequate servings of fruits and vegetables or follow good nutrition principles. More than 70% of the US population fails to get enough physical activity to derive any health benefits. 24% of the US population has no physical activity. In fact, they're considering sitting as a new smoking. And diabetes has climbed from 61% between the years of 1991 and 2001. Sorry, I don't have any current statistics on from 2001 till today, but I'm sure it's actually climbed even more since then. And this is surprising to me when I read about this. The US is ranked 178th in infant mortality in the world out of 277 countries that were studied. More than 40% of the adult population has glucose intolerance, which means that they're pre-diabetic. Coronary heart disease, a multiple risk illness, is responsible for 37% of all deaths in the US. So think about this, guys. Everybody on this call right now, if we take a look at the total of 15, 20 people that we have on this call, almost half of you will wind up getting cardiovascular disease. Now, I'm not saying you will, because the people on these workshops and these webinars typically are forward thinkers. They think differently. They take care of themselves. I'm not going to see the person that doesn't take care of themselves typically. You're more interested in learning more on how to take care of yourself. Obesity, cigarette smoking, and sunburn are responsible for more than 50% of all cancers. Lack of exercise and poor nutrition are responsible or contribute to virtually every case of cancer. Now, let's talk about genetic diseases versus lifestyle diseases. Only 5% of all disease on the planet is genetic, which means this: 100% of the time, you will have, say, for example, trisomy 21, Down syndrome. You'll have Down syndrome if you have the extra chromosome, 100% of the time. All right. Cancers are not typically a genetic disease. It is a lifestyle disease. 95% of all diseases are caused by what we put in our mouth, how we think, environmental pollutants and toxins. All right. So which should empower you to know that you have the ability to change your life. No matter how sick you are today, you have the opportunity to change your life. Obesity is the leading cause of arthritis in women and second leading cause in men. 38% of the adult population in the US has high blood pressure. 70% of Americans take at least one prescription medication. Now, I have patients that are probably on between 5 and 15 medications on a religious basis. Americans are ranked 38th in overall healthcare systems out of 38 countries studied. We are the 28th in life expectancy. Some say 49th. Every 18 minutes, an American dies from properly prescribed medications. Over 100,000 people die per year over the past 20 years from properly prescribed medication. 13th, we have 13th in overall happiness out of 207. We're the 7th highest case in the country for cancers rather. 6th leading cause of death is also known as iatrogenic diseases caused by physicians. We spend 2.5 times more money than any other country in healthcare and have the lowest outcomes. Only 21,000 Americans died of illegal drugs over the past year, and 108,000 died for properly prescribed Western medication drugs. Americans make up 4.7% of the world's population to consume over 80% of all the medications, specifically pain meds, rather. America is the 2nd fattest country, second to Mexico. Sorry, Mexico. We are number 1 in diabetes rates in people over 20 years and older in the whole entire world. Americans have shorter lifespans and higher rates of injury and disease than their counterparts in other rich countries. Now, this is a very interesting fact. The human genome takes about 45,000 years to change. So the advent of agriculture happened about 10,000 years ago. So our bodies are still trying to adapt to grains over the past 10,000 years, where it takes 45,000 years to adapt and change. 1 billion adults worldwide are overweight. 300 million are clinically obese. You know, we could keep on going on and on and on. 2.8 million people die from obesity per year. 43 million children under the age of 5 are overweight. And I'm sure we see this, and when we go to the supermarkets, we see kids getting heavier. And I go to my daughter's school, and I see a lot of kids being obese compared to when I was a kid. This was an interesting fact when I looked this up. Over 550 million pounds of industrial chemicals have been dumped into the sewage system. Let me just move you guys just a little bit. I can't read the rest of it. Into sewage system. Okay. Over 1 billion pounds of chemicals were released into the ground, threatening our groundwater. Over 180 million pounds of chemicals were discharged in the surface waters, and more than 2.4 billion pounds of air emissions were pumped into the atmosphere. The grand total of chemical pollutants released into the environment are over almost 6 billion. And that's over the past 2 decades. So if we look at this, it's abysmal, right? And we should be kind of terrified. But we see, and I'm sure Lisa sees this as well, and just look at anybody that's over the age of 45 or 40 years old. We see how when we were children, we used to go out and play a lot. We used to eat foods that came from the planet, came from Earth, right? Now, kids are eating foods that you can't read the labels. Kids are moving less, adults are moving less. We're addicted to social media. So these all add up over time to what we're going to learn next, right? And it's very important for you to understand the foundations about this, because pain comes from multiple areas. We can't just think pain is biomechanical cause. What we're going to learn in a few minutes is that pain comes from predominantly 4 different causes. There's probably hundreds, but I chunked it out into 4 different most common causes, right? Now, to treat disease, this is a Chinese proverb, to treat disease, we must treat the root. And then what's the root in Chinese medicine? And if we think about the root in Chinese medicine, it's being central or creating balance between left and right side. So if you've ever seen the yin yang symbol, right? The yin and yang is creating balance between the left and right side of the body, or the balance between the inside and outside. So in life, we always want to have balance, right? If we work out very hard, too much, the body breaks down. But if we don't work out enough, the body breaks down, right? If we sit too long, the body breaks down. If we stand too long, the body breaks down, right? If we're always chasing after a goal and we're not reserving and recovering, the body breaks down, right? Or mentally we break down. If we're always sitting in meditation, there's no external environment that we actually flourish and grow. You guys understand that, right? So there's another ancient Chinese proverb that I love to say. To treat disease after it has already manifested, it is like digging a well after you're already thirsty, or creating weapons after a war has already begun. It's already too late. And so what we pride ourselves on at Kinetic Rehab Spine is trying to find disease before they even manifest. And how many of you guys have been to a doctor before where your blood work came back perfect, but you still have, I just don't feel, I feel fatigued. I feel tired. I don't have energy. I used to have all this energy in the past. Or you had an image for your lower back or your knee and they didn't find anything on the image, right? Or they find, oh, that's normal. You have arthritis, you're 45 or 50 years old. That's all normal pain, right? It's interesting to me that when we look at these parameters, we're missing big things because people are just not feeling well nowadays. And I don't feel well a lot of the time as well. And so when I don't feel that way, I got to take a look at what I'm taking and what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, how I'm thinking, right? So we have to really start taking a look at ourselves from a 360. And this is a quote that I wrote a few years back. Your health is a direct adaptation to your lifestyle choices. So we have a choice to either choose to be healthy or not. And with that being said, if we choose to be healthy, then we're going to take the actions. It is very easy to not exercise. It is very easy not to eat clean. It is very easy not to hydrate. It is very easy to think what we call automatic negative thoughts or negative thinking, right? Also known as stinking thinking. It is very easy to do that. What's not easy is to wake up early. What's not easy is to pray or meditate. What's not easy is to show gratitude to yourself and your loved ones. What's not easy is to forgive somebody that has wronged you. What's not easy is to actually make really good choices when you go to a restaurant on food you eat. What's not easy is that you super hydrate, drinking half your body weight in ounces. What's not easy is moving a little bit every day. That's not easy, right? It's not meant to be easy. Life is not meant to be easy. Life is actually hard. We know that. We've all been beaten up either through COVID or even traumas in the past, right? Life is not meant to be easy, but we should accept the fact that pain is common, but suffering is not. So my goal for you guys is to understand that there's a difference between pain and there's a difference between suffering. Pain is fine. Pain is normal, but suffering is not. So if we're in chronic pain where we hear all the time, we shouldn't have to suffer. And if there's strategies and tools that can help you alleviate your pain, we got to take actions for that, right? If you have emotional pain or emotional trauma, same thing applies, right? If we foster those negative thoughts, and it is estimated 90 to 95% of our thoughts are the same thoughts as yesterday. If we don't change our thoughts of the future is always going to happen to us, regardless. So in order for us to change, we must take that change now. It is on us to change our health because nobody else is going to do it for us. Now, this is one of my teachers, Dr. Jerry Tennant. He wrote the book, Healing is Voltage. And it's very important for you guys, if you can get a chance to read his book, Healing is Voltage, Dr. Jerry Tennant. What he states is that chronic disease occurs when you lose the ability to make new cells. Chronic disease it occurs when you lose the ability to make new cells. Now, how do we make new cells? What Dr. Tennant says, our cells are designed to run in an environment of minus 25 millivolts. However, it takes minus 50 millivolts for you to make a new cell. So if I take a hammer and bang my thumb against, or I bang the hammer against my thumb, what's going to happen is we're going to have blood flow going into the area. Now, blood flow comes to the area to increase cell voltage. That cell voltage has to go to minus 50 millivolts in order for new cells to repair itself. If the body runs out of the ability to create voltage or energy, I should say, right? And then the body has the inability to heal itself. Thus, we need to have a voltage, also known as electrons in Western medicine, energy in Western medicine, Qi in Chinese medicine, and Ayurvedic medicine is called prana, to make cells work and to make new cells to keep the body repaired. The Chinese, the Taoists have understood this for thousands of years. The Vedics and Vedic traditions and out of India have known this for thousands of years. The Christians also have known about this for thousands of years, right? So what we've done, we've moved past these techniques and these strategies to be able to have us optimize the ability for our cells to function. And basically, guys, in order for us to be well, the cell has to be well. In order for us to be healthy, it has to start at the cell. And the cell has to function optimally. Now, let me show you something. Who's with me on this, all right? So let me see if this can be seen. So if we look at it from this perspective, this is your cell. Let's put a little smiley face here, right? A group of cells together create tissues. And then a group of tissues together create organs. And then a group of organs together create the 11 organ systems. And then the 11 organ systems create you. Does that make sense? Basic physiology. So what happens if your cell becomes dysfunctional? What happens to, we have 4 tissues here. What happens to these 4 tissues? 4 tissues are nervous system tissue, nervous tissue, epithelial tissue, connective tissue, and muscle tissue. What happens to these 4 tissues? One of these 4 tissues or all these 4 tissues become dysfunctional. Then the organs become dysfunctional. Then one or all of the 11 organ systems becomes dysfunctional. Then you become dysfunctional, then become disease. Does that make sense? Has to start at the cell level. If we don't fix the cell, there's no way for your body to actually rehab itself. And there's approximately 50 trillion cells inside our body, and each cell has a voltage of electricity. And this voltage of electricity is 1.4. Now, let me draw this a little bit closer. Let's zoom in on the cell a little bit here. So if this is your cell, inside the cell is a negative charge. Outside the cell is a positive charge. This looks like what? A battery. So every cell in the body is a battery. And when we start losing the charge, Dr. Tennant says, if we don't have minus 25 millivolts of voltage inside a cell, the cell becomes dysfunctional. And then the cell, and then the tissues become dysfunctional, so forth and so on. But then what happens if this becomes less partically charged, and say this becomes a bigger charge, and then the cell next to it gets stuck together. And these positive charges are actually known as toxins. And the cells need to function at a pH of 7.365. And when we lose that cell pH, or I'm sorry, the blood pH, then the cells get stuck. And they get stuck because cell voltage goes down. Does that make sense? And with that being said, we have 50 trillion cells inside our body. And if we take 1.4 volts of the total electricity of a cell times 70 trillion volts, I'm sorry, times 50 trillion cells, we have over 70 trillion volts of electricity going through us on a daily basis. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what else would. Because a lightning bolt is only 300 million volts of electricity. That should just blow your mind. Inside of us, we have the capacity to do incredible things if only we choose to. But the differentiator is inside of us. It doesn't matter what book you read. It doesn't matter if somebody tells you about a supplement or a nutritional product. That's nothing. That does not matter. It's what matters is you guys making a choice to choose to be healthy or not. That's it. And it's okay if you don't choose to be, but just know that your life and your health is not going to change unless you make the choice to make those changes. And this is Dr. Lipton's research. And what he found was something known as psychoneuroimmunology. If our thoughts can make us feel sick, right? Who's ever had the experience where somebody did something wrong to you 20 years ago? I have a guy that I can think about now that it's actually better now because I was able to work through it. But I had a bully in high school that would just torment me, right? And I can still think about him today. My heart rate goes up. My blood pressure goes up. I produce adrenaline, cortisol, catecholamines, all the stress hormones. But the body feels it as if it happened today. Right? Who could think of somebody that cut you off 2 days ago or a week ago, and you still get that visceral response, right? So our brain has the ability to create biochemistry as if we're sick or diseased. But also what they're finding is our brain also has the ability for us to reverse that. So if our brain could cause sickness, which is known as a nocebo effect, why not create a placebo? us inside our own mind's eye create the environment that we want to be healthy in. So we start creating biochemistry as if we're healthy. And in fact, I think it's up to 30 to 50%, Lisa, please chime in, of all medications is actually a placebo. So it's pretty powerful. And that's why they have to go through all the double-blind placebo studies to rule out placebo. But still, placebo plays a role in everything. And if it does, then why not have us use it to our benefit? All right. All right. So before we go on, I want to explain a little bit more about the cell because it's really important. So everything comes down to, when we talk about energy, we really talk about metabolism. All right. So in order for us, our cell voltage to get to minus 50 millivolts, we need to have proper functioning metabolism inside the cell. And all metabolism happens inside the cell. Now, we could use metabolism and energy, same word pretty much, right? And our mitochondria are basically the powerhouse of the cell. So the mitochondria are actually ancient bacteria that actually communicate via light. So we have the opportunity to charge a battery up by just going outside in the sun or walking barefoot outside, right? So that charges up the battery inside the cell, the mitochondria. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So if here's our cell, hopefully you guys can see this. Nicole, can you see it? Yeah. So here's the cell. Now outside the cell is called the cell membrane. And we have these little things, these are called integral membrane proteins, and they look like barbells. And there's thousands, if not millions of these surrounding the cell. And these are actually receptor sites. And the receptor sites for food, for hormones, for nourishment. So let's just say we had steak and we had a protein. So we have amino acids from the food, right? Amino acids. And then we have our essential fatty acids from the fats we had, essential fatty acids. And then we have our sugars, right? These foodstuffs are supposed to access the cell via these receptors. This is known as IMP, integral membrane protein receptor sites. And there's millions of these on a cell. Now, what if there was something blocking that receptor site? What's going to happen to this foodstuffs getting into the cell? Because these foodstuffs have to get inside the cell for the DNA and the mitochondria to replicate. So if we don't have proper nourishment getting inside the cell, then when we reproduce a cell, we get a very unhappy cell, also known as an unhealthy cell. Does that make sense? So if we have something that's attached that is not allowing the food stuff to get into the cell becomes dysfunctional. So what could be blocking the receptor sites? And there's something known in German homeopathy. It's called homotoxicology. Homotoxins. Homo means human, toxins. And remember when we went through the burden of illness, the billions of toxins that have been put into the environment, they block the receptor sites. Dr. Bruce Lipton also found our emotions, our thoughts also block these receptor sites. The foods we eat also block these receptor sites. You guys tracking with me? So then foodstuffs can't get inside the cell. So if we can't get food inside the cell, how's the mitochondria going to function? It just can't. I mean, it can. There's other ways for it to work, but it's like running on jet fuel versus like regular gas, right? It's like having a Maserati versus a Datsun. If you're old enough to know what a Datsun is, most of you are that are on call under the age of 30 have no idea what a Datsun is. But it's not a good fuel source. It becomes toxic inside the body. So what we need to do is assess why, and I call these rocks in the backpack. All right, so we're genetically programmed to live to 120 years old. Think about this. And say you're genetically programmed to live to 120 years, and you got floaties on your arms, and you have little holes in the floaties, and I put you in a pool of water. What should happen over time is this. 120 years, the air slowly leaves those holes in the floaty. And then slowly over time, you'll see air leaves. And then when you're 120, you sink to the bottom. Bye-bye. Peaceful death. Now, if you have a backpack on your back, you're going to start throwing these rocks in your backpack. And the first rock, it doesn't really change anything. Second rock, maybe you live to 115 versus 120. By the 5th or 10th rock, now you're at 90 years old. 20th rock in your backpack. Now you're at 78 years old. The average life expectancy in America for a woman. Men, it's 77. Right? It's these rocks in your backpack that are known as homotoxins. And it's our job, it's Lisa and my job to find those big rocks in your backpack that's limiting your ability to move, limiting your ability to function, limiting your ability to live the life that you're meant to live. We're supposed to be happy. We're not supposed to be suffering. Pain is normal, suffering is not. And it's my job and our job to find what the rocks are in your backpack. And there's different strategies I'll talk about later how we do that. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so we need metabolism. We need energy for the cell to replicate in a healthy way. All right, we understand that, right? So there's basically one hormone that sets the pace for the mitochondria to function. And this hormone comes from the thyroid. The thyroid runs the ship. The thyroid runs the ship. It is considered the queen. The adrenals are considered the king. And if the thyroid becomes dysregulated, we can never produce that minus 25 to minus 50 millivolts to optimize cell function. So then the body becomes dysfunctional. The thyroid regulates metabolism. And for the next couple of days, guys, what I want you to do is I want you to measure your body temperature. First thing in the morning before you go to bed. You could use a mouth thermometer, a digital one in the mouth, not the forehead ones. Those are just not accurate. And if your body temperature is below 97.8, you're hypometabolic, which means that chances are you have an issue with either the supply of the thyroid hormone or the conversion of the thyroid hormone inside the cell, which means that the cell is dysfunctional. And this is classically called Wilson's temperature syndrome, where it shows up normal in blood work. Your TSH looks perfect on blood work, but your body temperature is low. And you have a lot of different symptoms, ranging from cold hands, cold feet, to fatigue, to chronic pain, to sleep issues, to irregular menses, to hot flashes, to digestive issues. The thyroid sets the pace for probably close to 200 to 300 different systems inside the body, or symptoms, I should say, inside the body. So it is very important for us to know what that looks like. And Lisa is a master at that. So if you want to really take a deep dive, just make an appointment with Lisa sometime. All right. So it's energy, baby. Everything comes down to energy. And how we eat, how we move, how we think, and how we supplement, and how we take smart drugs. Now, I'm not anti-medication, guys. I'm anti-overuse or abuse of medication. All right. So if the right physician comes along, like say, for example, Lisa, she's into the most natural way possible, but there is sometimes a need for medication, and that's okay, right? Let me move you guys out a little bit because I can't see my screen. So I'm going to move you down a little bit. So let's look at the graph on the left first. This is known as total daily, or TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. So say, for example, each one of us is, we burn about, say, for example, me, I burn about 2,000 calories per day through everything I do, from exercise, which you'll see as EAT, exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, TEF, thermal effective food, and then our basal metabolic rate. All right, so I want you to really focus on basal metabolic rate, because this is an indirect measurement of your body temperature. Now, my basal metabolic rate last time I got checked, I think was, and we have a technology here we do for our patients. It's called a body composition scan. And now it's about 1800 BMR, basal metabolic rate. So they say, classically, in order for you to lose weight, you need to be below that 800 kilocalories per day. And that's a lie. That's a lie. Because what's going to happen is the moment I drop my caloric intake under that 1800 calories, the thyroid becomes dysfunctional. Because this is the metabolism. I need to have proper metabolism. The calories cannot, there's a lot of background sound. Can you guys please mute your side? If there's a lot of, yeah, so if I don't have enough calories in my day, like I find for myself, the day I fasts, my hands are much colder. And patients always like, oh my gosh, your hands are so cold today. I have what's known as my TSH is within normal limits. I have a thyroid dysregulation issue. My problem is at the cell level. It's at this level. And Lisa and I were working on this together to improve my thyroid health, or my conversion, I should say. Now, what's interesting here, guys, exercise activity thermogenesis, this is like us going to the gym, lifting heavy weights. Look how much of a day, it only takes about 5% of your daily calories burned in a day. Only 5%. But look at NEAT, guys. NEAT makes up about 15%. So let me describe what NEAT is. You know how they always talk about, or you've heard, listen, 10,000 steps a day? That's NEAT. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So when I'm at work, I probably do Nicole, you probably do around 5 to 10,000 steps per day at work, right? Most of our clinicians do. So at work, because we're always, we have an 8,000 square foot facility, so we're always going back and forth. We're burning a lot of calories throughout the day just through walking. If we're sitting a lot, we're not tapping into NEAT. That's why they're proponents of 10,000 steps per day. Now, those of you that have tried to lose weight, try adding NEAT. Add a little bit more walking, because that makes up more than exercise. All right, so there's also thermic effect of food. So there's fat. Fat burns a lot more calories, like good quality fat. For example, brain octane, which is a type of MCT oil, it burns a lot of fat. So think about adding brain octane, a form of MCT oil, to say your coffee in the morning, or to your food, or to your smoothie. That burns a lot of fat. Now, different ways for us to improve a basal metabolic rate, which is basically our core temperature. There's a physician, he actually coined this technology, this syndrome called Wilson temperature syndrome. And what he found was that most of his patients had the normal TSHs, but they're having symptoms of hypothyroidism. But according to blood work, they were not hypothyroid. Only 3 to 5% of the population fall into clinical hypothyroidism. So what he termed was this. He termed this as Wilson temperature syndrome, where he found that the basal temperature, or the body temperature, fell below 97.8 throughout the day, or 98.6, I should say, throughout the day. And what he found was that it was actually a conversion issue at the cell to improve cell function. And if we have toxins, homotoxins, at the cell site, thyroid hormone can't get inside the cell, so we can't convert T4 to the active form of T3. And so that's what he found. And he created a whole entire protocol to actually reverse this. Now, let's go back up top here. So each cell in the body needs fuel, and the fuel creates energy, which is ATP. Energy is produced by the cell, more specifically the mitochondria. How we eat, how we move, how we think, how we supplement, and how we do smart drugs with a great clinician affects the messenger signaling from the hormones to the mitochondria and DNA replication. This energy, cell voltage of minus 25 to minus 50, repairs the cells, tissues, organs, muscles, etc. And the basal metabolic rate is an indirect measurement of the body temperature. If the body temperature is below 97.8 with a digital thermometer before you get out of bed in the morning, then you're hypometabolic, which means that you have a sluggish metabolism. If you have a sluggish metabolism, you can't produce healthy cells to help repair yourself. This may not show on blood work because your TSH is normal. This is known as Wilson temperature syndrome. All right, hopefully you guys are following me on this. All right, so an aside here, guys, a couple different ways for us to improve a basal metabolic rate. Number one, meeting with a physician that really understands thyroid health. If you're on T4, speaking to a physician that knows a lot about T3 medication. And also an exercise that we added to our patients recently, founded by Dr. Wilson, is called shiver size. Shiver size. Nicole, can you type shiver size in the chat box and type in Dr. Wilson's name? Go watch some videos on shiver size. It's really quite simple. You set a timer for 1 minute. My daughter loves this. No, she doesn't. And basically, you actively shiver for 1 minute. And the fatigue you get from that is extraordinary. Is that even a word? Extraordinary. But what it does, it allows the thyroid to function better and convert T4 to T3 inside the cell, because it focuses on 4 counter-regulatory hormones to insulin. And insulin is the fat storage hormone. So that's how it works. All right. But we could always do a talk later on about that. All right. So real quick, guys, take a look at this list and either write it down in the chat box or just write it down on a sheet of paper if you don't feel like sharing. Let us know, let me know, or let yourself know. Do you have or have you had any of these symptoms over the past 6 months? And do a mental check. Maybe name 3 or 4 name a few of them. If you have more than 2 or 3, make sure you just make a mental note of that. Okay. Good. Now, do me a favor, in the chat box, just list some of the symptoms you might have had if you like sharing, or if you don't feel like sharing symptoms, if you had 1 or more symptoms, say me. Okay. All right, good. All right, so let's move on. I wanted this talk to be only 30 to 40 minutes, and I think I've overcooked the grits a little bit. So let's move on to the next slides. So I want you to understand how pain occurs. And we went through a lot about metabolism and why metabolism is so important for cell function. Now, there's 4 components I want you to think about. Think about this stool here. So pain is at the top. We have 4 primary causes. Now there's hundreds of causes, but this is in a nutshell. We have neurological causes, vascular causes, hormonal causes, and biomechanical causes. So if I have 4 aspects here, and I'm going to put cardiovascular here, cardio, nervous system here, and I'm going to put hormones here, and then I'm going to put biomechanics here. Most people think about pain being purely only biomechanics. But if you take a look, there's 3 other most common causes of why you might have pain. The nervous system can be impinged. So you get a pinched nerve, right? The left and right brain may or may not be communicating very well with each other. Our occupational therapy department specializes in functional neurology, and they look at that. You could have poor circulation going to an area, right? Acupuncture really benefits that. You could have a biomechanical issue, like a pelvis that's off, or a diaphragm that's working well, or not working well, or a foot that's malpositioned. That could be causing a lot of your pain as well as hormones. Like we talked about, hormones have a direct influence on the cell. So if we have the cardiovascular system and nervous system working well, and these are all interrelated, then the body's in a state of function, which progresses to a state of ease, and then we get no symptoms. But say we have decreased circulation. So if I took a rubber band, and I wrapped around your finger, what's going to happen to your finger over time? It's going to turn purple, it's going to turn red, it's going to turn purple, it's going to be achy, and then the tissues start dying. Same thing happens inside the body. So if the cardiovascular system becomes dysfunctional, It's going to affect the nervous system, the hormonal system, biomechanical system. Then the body goes into a state of what's known as dysfunction, which progresses to a state of dis-ease. And then we start getting symptoms, fatigue, pain, hormonal issues, weight gain. Okay, so those are the most common things we see in the clinic. Now, same thing applies here. Say I have the circulatory system works well, but the nervous system becomes dysfunctional. It's going to affect all other systems and the body becomes dysfunctional. Disease occurs, then we start with symptoms. Now, most of the time, most of our patients, it's all four of those. But traditionally speaking, in most PT clinics, even chiropractic clinics and occupational therapy clinics, they're only focusing on one thing. Even most medical offices, they're only focusing on one thing. But if we're only focusing on one thing, we're only focusing on 25% of what might be causing your symptoms. Does that make sense? So we want to do a 360. We want to find out why you have your pain. And to treat the pain, we must find the root. Hopefully that makes sense. And we talked about this briefly. There's about 62,000 thoughts that come through us on a daily basis. Of those thoughts, 46,200 of them are negative. And 95% of all our thoughts on a daily basis are the same ones we've had the day before. So if we ever want the future to change for us, we need to change how we think today. All right, this is what happens during stress. Let me just move through this. So stress causes a lot of different issues. Now, these are the rocks in the backpack, right? So whenever we have increased rocks in our backpack, cortisol increases. When cortisol increases, which is a stress hormone, our life expectancy decreases, inflammation goes up, our cholesterol goes up, weight gain goes up, immune function goes down, sleep goes down, pain goes up, our fertility goes up, digestion goes down, insulin resistance, diabetes goes up, blood sugar dysregulation goes up. That's almost 80% of my patients that walk in the door, maybe 90% of my patients complain of these symptoms. And Lisa, you probably agree with that as well. And then adrenaline causes, nasal nitric oxide. This is extremely important in vasodilation or dilation of the blood vessels around the heart. Respiratory system, so you start hyperventilating, heart rate goes up and so does blood pressure. All right, this is gonna be the last slide that we're really gonna dive deep on. This is really important to understand. This took me some time to really grasp this. So I wanna start with this is how hormones influence our ability to heal, okay? So let's look at the graph on the right first. We've all known what melatonin is, okay? Melatonin is our sleep hormone. And if you look around, this is 1800 is around what, 1800 is around 6 p.m. So around 6 p.m., 7 p.m., melatonin starts rising, 8, 9, 10, and then midnight. So at around midnight to 2, that's when melatonin is the highest, maybe even to around 4. How many of us on this call wake up between 2 and 4? And you think, oh, I just had to go to the bathroom. No, what happened was this. You probably had a blood sugar dysregulation, which caused cortisol to elevate. So when cortisol goes up, it suppresses melatonin, so we wake up. So if we have a stressful event during the day, it could significantly affect the melatonin production at night. Now, if we have an underactive thyroid or we have hypometabolism, thyroid's functioning well, but the cell's not converting thyroid hormone very well, and then cortisol stays in circulation for up to 18 hours, where normally it should be in circulation for about 3 to 6. So if we have a stress response in the morning, and then a stress response in the afternoon, then a stress response in the evening, what's going to happen to our stinking sleep-wake cycles? They're going to be jacked up. Now, look at this. Growth hormone is the anti-aging hormone. We need growth hormone for us to repair all connective tissue. We need growth hormone to repair organ systems. We need growth hormone to repair cells, right? The moment melatonin suppressed by cortisol, growth hormone also gets suppressed. So sleep is critical for the body's ability to heal itself. All right, now, how does that relate to thyroid stimulating hormone in the thyroid? Now look at this. Look at 24 here and look at 24 here. Let's draw a line up to here. See how low that is? This is the lowest point at night, when TSH is the lowest, at about 24. So about midnight, it's the lowest. Let's go to 24 here. And let's follow cortisol. Cortisol is also at its lowest. Now let's bring it to 6. So hopefully you can see my mouse. So then by 6 a.m., look at the peak of cortisol. And then look at 6 would be right about here. Look at the peak of TSH. So just to let you guys know, when TSH goes up, thyroid, the body gets colder. Just know that. That's why you have colder temperatures in the morning than you would in the afternoon or evening. And this is why I want to know your body temperature first thing in the morning, because I want to know how subclinical hypometabolic you are. So if you're below 97.8 body temperature first thing in the morning, it could actually be a cortisol response that's causing it. So there's an intimate relationship between the adrenal gland, which produces cortisol, and the thyroid that produces thyroid, well, pituitary produces thyroid stimulating hormone. So there's an intimate relationship between the thyroid gland and the adrenal gland. That's why I call the adrenals king and the thyroid queen. Does that make sense? All right. All right. So this is an assessment we do inside the clinic. It's called a bioterrain assessment, where we look at the homotoxins. We look at adrenal function. We look at gut health. We look at digestive enzymes, electrolyte polarity, which is basically the ability for the cell membrane to function. Heavy metals, so we can look at those poison toxins that we're getting from the environment or that are passed down from our parents. And pH, which is extremely important in the alkalinity of the body, and the pH. This is an indication of actually blood pH. And then sugar utilization, how much sugars are we peeing out? Okay. When you combine this with properly done blood work, we get a really big picture. That's why Lisa is so amazing at this. All right, so let's open up to any questions. Feel free to either ask questions in the chat box or just ask me questions, unmute and ask questions for the next couple minutes. Nicole, what might be some of the questions that you've heard from patients? I know people are being shy right now. What might be some questions that you think that patients might have?
Regarding like taking temperature, is that the question?
No, regarding the whole presentation. Any questions on the presentation?
Oh, I think everyone would want to know how they get out of pain immediately. So I think you covered most of that in the whole presentation here. So
yeah, and to get out of pain immediately, it's treating the inside out is a very slow process. Mm-hmm. That's why you need to have manual therapy. You need to have symmetry between left and right side. Movement is key, specialized movement. The internal work takes time. And a really good case study, what really sent me down this path was when I was treating a woman with severe arthritis about 23 years ago. And I couldn't get out of pain. And during that time, I was going through my own challenges with gluten. I didn't realize I had gluten issues. And I cut out gluten at that time, and I had hives all over my body. And my hives went away within a week. And so I told this woman, like, listen, for grins and giggles, just go off of gluten for just 1 week. She came back to see me a week later. Almost all her joint pain was gone. Arthritis was still there, but her joint pain was gone. So with arthritis, manual therapy works really well, but cutting out gluten is extremely important. And gluten's found in wheat, rye, barley, oats, cow dairy. So you want to be able to cut those out. What other questions do you think, Nicole, or even Ekta, any questions that you might have?
A lot of patients might be wondering what their next steps are and where to go from here. And I know my introduction at the beginning was a little bit slow. I apologize for my computer glitch, but my name is Lisa Pelt. I'm the nurse practitioner here at Kinetic Rehab and Spine. And your first steps are just calling and coming in and getting an evaluation, because give us the trouble, give us all those burdens, give us all those struggles that you are having, and let us put it all out on a table and run your diagnostics and find out what pillar is causing you the most pain or ailing you most. It's just one step. It's just taking a step, calling, scheduling a diagnostic, and seeing what unfolds, because you might be fighting an uphill battle, and you might be in that vicious cycle where you don't know where that little break is, and you're going and you're in pain and you're depressed and you're eating and you're living this lifestyle in a cycle, and it's just cutting that and changing your direction and flipping it on the ground, looking at it a different way. If you've been told by everybody else, or other people or other providers or friends that, your symptoms are not real, that they're not yielding lab results or image results that, are anticipated, it doesn't mean that what you're experiencing is not true, that's not valid. And that's why it's up to us to listen to those concerns and listen to how you're feeling, and find out what is at that root cause of what you're going through. So yeah, I'm very eager to meet all of you, and any of you, if you so choose, to come in and collaborate with you to create a change in your life. It's up to you.
Thank you, Lisa. I tell you, she's my physician now. So she's my go-to source for my ailments. And her and I would love to geek out. And we're probably 7 to 10 times a day, we're sending educational videos to each other. And it's great to have her on our team, guys. Please use her whenever you need her. So this is our gift to you guys. So most of you on this call right now are already active patients. So this also covers you. So feel free to take us up on this offer. So like Lisa was saying, a comprehensive consultation with a nurse practitioner, Lisa, to review your medical history and healthcare goals. This could also be done telehealth, and most insurance companies cover it. But if it doesn't cover it, it's only $125. Also, you get one free biocharging session. Let me show you the biocharger. I know Mike is on this. He loves the biocharger. So this is the biocharger. This is one technology that we use to optimize cell voltage. So in order for us to be well, we need to optimize cell function. So this helps bring back that cell voltage from -20 to -25 to -50 millivolts. That's why I'm a huge fan of this technology. And then that urine test. Let's look at the terrain of the body. And if you can imagine, if you were a delicate flower and you want to bloom, what do you need? You need to have sunlight. You need to have oxygen. You need to have soil. You need to have water in the soil. You need to have minerals in the soil. You need to have vitamins in the soil, right? So the urine test actually assesses for that. And that'll be a free gift to you guys. And that's valued at $125 as well. So all in, if you don't have insurance, it's only $125 to meet with Lisa. And that can be done via telehealth, or it can be done in the office clinically on Tuesdays. Just do us a favor. Take advantage of the offer. Do yourself a favor. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Text your name and phone number to 551-266-4206. 551-226-4206. And let us serve you. Let us help you. We're open to you and your friends and family and loved ones. If you have any questions, feel free to contact Nicole at 201 as well. And she's probably gonna be responding to these text messages. So feel free to text Nicole at this number. All right, guys, sempre avante, always forward. And if there's any other topics you want to listen or learn more, if you want to dive into more about exercise and movement and nutrition, feel free to just text that phone number, and Nicole will be able to serve you best. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for everybody for being on this call. Take care. God bless.